All right, it looks like we have everyone, including the amazing Max is back.
Amazing. Howdy, everyone.
Hello, hello.
What's up,
Hey,
guys?
Tony and Jake.
We're blessed to have the amazing Max back.
Amazing.
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 I'm glad it's a thing now. We need to get some shirts made. Fantastic merchandising opportunity here, guys.
Amazing
There you
merchandising.
go. Woo! Off to a great start. Off to a great start.
All right, now with that, we can start. Thank you, everyone, for attending our latest edition of Move Monday, in which today we have some great guest speakers for you today, over from Overmind, where Overmind is a platform where devs can learn how to build groundbreaking dApps and compete on coding quests to earn rewards and on-chain credentials. So I would like to introduce our guests today here, Jake and Tony.
Yeah. So first off, I would love to give you guys some appreciation because I've been watching Move Mondays ever since you guys had them on Twitch when you were all around the table, and I remember before mainnet, you guys had a I think it was a no haircut until mainnet or something like that. So I know how hard it is to get in the trenches, especially during a very volatile asset, and just get on and just speak to the people every week. So love to give you guys some praise for just hosting these things every Monday.
Thank you, thank you. And to be fair, I hadn't been cutting my hair for almost 2 years at that point.
Yeah, I saw that you had very long hair, and Max wasn't liking it.
No, no one really liked it. That's actually a different problem.
Everyone loved it. It was fantastic. It was amazing. It was great hair. Legitimately great hair. I think a lot of us, a couple of us, not as many as I would have hoped, grew out our hair for mainnet. And some of us even dyed it pink. That's all I have to say about that. And it was amazing.
I'm just happy it's over. We have a live network. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And we have amazing developers and an amazing ecosystem. And we love you all. You're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so sorry to kind of veer us in the wrong direction there, but yeah, so just kudos to you guys for just hosting these things. It's a great opportunity. But yeah, just a little bit about myself. I've been building. I kind of jumped on building games back when I was like 12. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this game called RuneScape. I just hacked a game together. It was called a RuneScape private server at that time, and I kind of got into building back then, and I started on games, and then I kind of moved over to websites because started to realize people don't really have. You have to get somebody to like your game, and then they have to have the CPU power and yada yada yada. So I kind of just switched over to websites, and then since then I've just kind of been building businesses and things alike. And I had a friend that kind of been preaching Web3 to me like 2 years ago, and then I kind of brushed him off for a year or so, and then that's how I dove into Web3.
That's amazing. I actually also played way too much RuneScape back in the day, so I totally understand. And Tony, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks guys for having us on here. Also played RuneScape, so really love that game. Always a lot of fun. I started working in investments until I transitioned into fintech. Working there for a company disrupting the private markets investing landscape, but also had a friend who kind of went through down the rabbit hole a couple of years ago. So I started dabbling in with crypto and Web3, and I completed, let's say, my slow transition to crypto last year when I teamed up with Overmind, and just focusing here on leading the DN ops, and I really believe in the mission that we've set out, and really glad for trying to have a positive impact on Web3 and on Aptos.
Cool. And with that, I gave a little introduction about what Overmind does. Why don't you guys tell us some of the details of your product?
Yeah, absolutely. So the broad aim is to onboard the next wave of Web3 devs. We're seeking to be, in a way, the enabler and just a very helpful reference for devs interested in building world-class DApps of the future. More concretely, what this means is that number one, we want to be the place where devs can learn, and they can learn in an interactive way, in an actionable and hands-on way. Everything that they need to build on Move and on Aptos. And this is what we call, let's say, the educational side of our platform. But then there's also, we try to combine that with the more competitive part of our product. So this is where devs compete to earn the rewards and credentials. We think that incentivizing devs by providing strong rewards in these challenges. If you go on the website now, you'll see our prize pools exceeding 10,000 USD. We think that that's very important to incentivize them. And we also think that providing the appropriate credentials for each of these challenges, that's going to be critical in the onboarding mission. But yeah, the primary vision is building a platform where devs can step by step go through what they need to know and be able to build the apps that they really want to build.
That's great. I mean, and how long have you guys been working on it?
Yeah, so we've been working on the idea basically of what Overmind is come to be, and for the past around 9 months. But at the beginning, when you're first starting off, you kind of just have an idea of what you want to do, and you kind of just see a problem. You kind of just see that education or bringing education and onboarding the next developers in emerging technology is extremely difficult. Any emerging technologies, the velocity in which you're moving is extremely high. So you have stale documentation, you have a bunch of technology breaking at a high speed. So we kind of saw that with these emerging blockchains. People just needed a place to educate and onboard. And the ecosystems are fully focused on building the L1s. So we kind of dove in, and that kind of looked like our puzzles when we first started off, our education when we first started off. But over the past 6 to 9 months, the platform has really evolved into what it is today, and I can't wait to see what it's going to be in the next 3 months, because we've massively iterated. I mean, just in the past week alone, we've pivoted from puzzles to quests, just so people can have more bite-sized, digestible piece of information. So we've been doing it for around 9 months, but the platform just completely changes around every 2 months.
I'm curious if you could actually walk us through, one of these quests or one of these kind of walkthroughs. Like, what's the end? What's the journey? What do users typically get out of it? Like, pitch it to me such that we can get a whole bunch of folks out there to go and start using them after this Move Monday session.
Yep. Thanks for the soft toss, David. So basically what happens with a quest is we kind of feel that when people are onboarding, when you're onboarding to any new technology, to muster up like the motivation and inspiration to build out or build any new technology, what I believe, I'm a big believer in, is just getting in and breaking things. But often developers don't have any sort of like project or thing they want to build. So Overmind specifically is building out like full-fledged products. You can see, that you just bring you can bring something to life. So one of our puzzles that my favorite puzzle that we have at the moment, or quest that we have at the moment, is called NFT Tango. And this NFT Tango is basically a platform in which people can put on. I can put one NFT versus somebody else. They can put another NFT up, and then like a coin flip happens, and whoever wins that coin flip earns both of those NFTs. Right. So what we do specifically with our quests is we want to inspire and motivate people to be able to see, hey, listen, to build an entire product or to build anything, here's some bite-sized digestible pieces, and just walking along this guided resources platform, now you can have a full-fledged product. Right. And in the future, actually, our version 2 that we're kind of launching here pretty soon, we're going to give out full educational content. We're going to give out front ends, the entire open source code of front ends to bring your entire product and app to life. Because that 0 to 1 to learning Aptos or learning Move specifically, I'm a big believer in, we just need to spark that motivation in that developer. Because once we spark that motivation and they can realize what they can do on Aptos, then they'll dive down any documentation, they'll get in the weeds of the Discords, they'll read all those other things, and they'll put in the work to actually build on emerging technology.
That sounds really cool. That kind of makes me also wonder, and maybe we didn't do this very effectively in Seoul, but how would you imagine making this more like of an in-person live type of opportunity? How would you translate that, and how can you imagine like scaling this up for other applications?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot we can do on the live side, but also kind of on the runway to the hackathons, and that's what we're trying now to think a lot about and come up with actionable ideas. I mean, on the live side, we can have similar to the CTF model that we see in a couple of these hackathons, create challenges and quests that people can go through. So in addition to, the building of the apps that we see during those hackathons, we can also have challenges on the side. So we think that's definitely one point. In addition, I think, and that was probably one of the learnings that we got from the Seoul hackathon, is that the runway to these hackathons is just a great opportunity to educate the participants, make sure that they have the resources and the knowledge that they need to come fully ready come hackathon to build what they want to build and compete.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're adding educational content to build full D apps then in the future. When are you going to have a puzzle for games? Hopefully RuneScape.
Yeah, so I mean, we listen to the people. So whatever the people tell us to build and whatever they want to build at the time, is what we do. So when is the game going to be live for the D app? As soon as the community tells us that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, so now everyone has to tell you after this that they want a game, or maybe just me. I was trying to build myself a tic-tac-toe tutorial as well, but maybe it'd be better for it to be on Overmind.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just to share a little bit, like I think one of the winners over in the Seoul Hackathon, which I've been told not to talk about more because Greg wants to get there eventually, but I like to skip around, just teasing Greg. But I think there was one game, I think it was Wolf and Witch. Like they were almost an entirely move-based game, and I'd love to see more of that type of energy coming in, where we get more pure on-chain games that really demonstrate the capability of what you can do with Aptos and Move together. And I think you guys are clearly at the forefront of helping scale that out. And so just to emphasize what Greg said, me too, win game.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we'll make sure on the lead up to Aptos Amsterdam we have multiple questions on that. If we want to see more games and if the community wants to see more games on Aptos, then we'll build the resources and the tools for people to start shipping those out.
I know that you were looking for being a way to provide these like certifications that people have won these or finished these quests. How are you planning on handling that, or how do you do it right now?
Yeah, so we think on-chain credentials is super critical for what we're trying to build. Being able to prove your skill and use that as a way to onboard and navigate building on Aptos, that's crucial. The way we're going to do that is with soulbound NFTs. We understand that's kind of like up and coming in the new Aptos token standard. The way we do it now is that basically we're noting kind of everyone's holding these quests. We're not able to send those soulbound credentials right now, but once that token standard is live, we're gonna drop them to all successful submissions, and from then on, it's going to be a working way forward.
That sounds great. I mean, I'm looking forward to that once we add that to the standard. Anything else that you would like to mention on the experience of building on Aptos?
Yeah, so a couple things, and I just want to preface before I kind of go into a couple of different things that we've kind of realized when we started building on Aptos. But every time I've kind of watched and this is just a call out, to the community and everybody listening. But every time I've watched a Move Monday and people came up and you guys asked, that specific question. I think that often what we kind of figure out is we want to give praise because Aptos is so great and everything. Like you guys have pushed forward a lot of the move standards and things that's going on. But one of the big things I'm a big believer in is like constructive criticism. Because often what we want, like the best users that give us feedback is the users that have used the product and can kind of tell us what's going on and they can tell us where we can optimize at. So just to call it to anybody who goes on or has the possibility of speaking or the opportunity of speaking on Move Monday, definitely jot down those things that you jot down those things that you have or that you think can be optimized, and let the folks at the Aptos team know. But some of the things that we've kind of ran into is one, just the overall developer experience and developer tooling. So if you look at like the VS Code extension and like linting and how those things work, you kind of see that a bunch of folks that are building on Aptos and building smart contracts, they'll kind of run the compile, like Aptos move compile, before they'll actually see if there's an error or not, because there's like a lack of linting and a lack of like autocomplete and things of that nature. So one thing I would say, that can be done a little bit, or can be optimized a little bit better, is that linting and developer experience, specifically catered towards IDEs or editors. So that's one of them. And then another one I would say is the testing. So if you kind of realize if you want to build like testing frameworks or anything of that nature, you'll kind of have to write out shell scripts, or end-to-end testing in which users have to spin up account resources and things of that nature. But one thing that we really would see here, and we kind of built this out. So also, call out to anybody if you have any problems with Aptos. You can definitely just start building things and shipping things. So we kind of built this thing called the Aptos client. You can look at that at aptosclient.com, and what that is basically is just a general purpose. It's just an MVP to kind of show people what you can do with testing. So instead of actually having to write out shell scripts and all these other things, you can just come on to the Aptos client, pop in, paste in your account address, paste in the function you're going to call, and then we'll reverse engineer the ABI and then let users call on that function with no code. Right. And if you can imagine, instead of writing shell scripts or instead of writing full integration tests, what you can do is you can now spin up or just copy and paste your smart contract address. And then in the future, you could just replay all of these, transactions. And now with no code, you can have a full testing environment. So to sum it up, I would say those two are primarily, developer tooling, and testing is the feedback I would give specifically to enhance the developer experience on Aptos. And then obviously the educational side, but at Overmind, we'll take care of that guy for you guys.
Yeah, this is the kind of feedback I'm always looking to hear from people, because it's very important to me to know what's going on, especially since I'm very focused on the developer experience in general. I've heard a lot of the similar feedback about the VS Code plugin, but what I do want to do is give a shout out to the IntelliJ / JetBrains plugin that was built by the Pontum team. On that, it does actually provide all the things you were talking about, but being able to run tests and compile, and as well as linting and everything within the IDE. And I'm pretty sure it does work on the free version of IntelliJ, which is nice. But I do know that people, when they're used to VS Code, they want to stick with VS Code and they love it so much.
Yeah, for sure. And if I just want to, throw one more point out there, is I think that onboarding new devs, when you kind of onboard new devs, because we were, in the trenches of Chicago at XHack, and we were kind of onboarding new devs. What they'll kind of figure out is like, when you're onboarding new devs or just talking to people, they're just going to go to what they're familiar with. So we kind of just realized that people were just jumping in VS Code because they were just already familiar with that, and then the understanding that you have to install IntelliJ or all these other things just kind of got them there. So yeah, if enhance the tooling wherever people are at, if it's VS Code today or like, Emacs tomorrow, I think we just got to enhance that. But yeah, the IntelliJ plugin is great on the Pontum people.
Yeah, Emacs. I'm not an Emacs person, so I wouldn't want to do that next. But yeah, I totally agree. It's something I've definitely been thinking about and seeing what we can do there. The VS Code plugin is managed by the Move community in general. So there's some specifics that come to the Aptos side that need to be worked out as well.
Yeah, on that note, there's also DSRV did the Remix web plugin for Aptos. So you can do a lot of these similar things, and you don't actually have to download anything. It just works completely cloud-based. So that's pretty cool. I think the one thing I'd call out there that I don't think we've done a good job and is really ripe for the picking is to just have a matrix of what options are out there, what the functions they provide, so that developers can kind of choose their own adventure. But as both of you kind of said, like the VS Code has a huge amount of opportunity, and we'd love to collaborate with anybody out there that wants to kind of pick that up and help us drive it forward.
Cool. Max and David, do you have any questions for our guests today?
what's next, right? Like what's the next big thing that you guys are excited for?
Yeah, so we're very close to shipping out a completed V2 over the next few days. So stay tuned for updates on that front. I think more generally, looking at things, we're very happy with how the UX and the backend looks right now. I think we've built a platform where going through quests is really exciting. It's rewarding. You get that instant feedback, and then it really works as a guide to one's journey on building on Aptos. I think what's next, let's say after we have that V2 launch over the next few days, is just shipping out top material in the sense of providing what the builder community wants to see, and having those challenges which have, let's say, the most bang for our buck in terms of improving the developer experience and improving the onboarding of new builders. So we really want to focus on building complete voyages in terms of walking step by step the devs through building the dApps, build those voyages in DeFi and NFTs, gaming, infra from start to finish. And I think we're really gearing up also to the next hackathon. I think we really want to make sure that we're tightly integrated and providing as much support and resources as possible to the whole dev community on Aptos.
Yeah, and if I could just, throw one point in there, what I'm most excited about for Overmind specifically is that I think with Aptos and building on Aptos and educating people on Aptos, you can kind of build these full-fledged products in which people couldn't imagine building on another chain because of the gas fees and how everything works under the hood. So one thing I'm really excited about is bringing things like you guys described, in this call, those games to life, in which people wouldn't even imagine that you can do this on another chain because of gas fees kind of cost an arm and a leg, and a bunch of other things. So one thing I'm really excited about is sparking that inspiration from just Web3 minds into showing them a new walk of product that you can build on chain.
That's really exciting to hear.
Cool. And from that point on, I would say if my friends don't have any additional questions, I'd like to open up the floor to anyone else to ask our team and Overmind questions about their experience and anything else that they would like to ask. Meanwhile, how was your amazing vacation, Max?
It was good. It was good. Went down to Santa Barbara. We just chilled for a week. It was really nice. Like it's all things. Saw some honestly weirdly Dutch themed tourist trap. It's like a mini Dutch. It was weird. Got some emu eggs, some ostrich eggs. Made some unnecessarily large omelets out of those. Just like a normal week, I would say.
Cool. Welcome, VJ. I see there's two of you, so I just invited one of you. What's your question?
Hey, David, Greg, Aptos team. Huge shout out to you first of all. And yes, I have a question earlier as well. We've been speaking MoveCon, but that space rugged us. So yes, my question to Jacob is, what specifically are you doing to educate people on how they can go ahead and read smart contract, check these things, these things are built in a smart manner or not copied from other smart contracts, because it's a bit different on Aptos, right? So what specifically are you doing to educate people on reading smart contract and checking things if it is built correctly or not copied from some other projects?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there's two parts there. One is to read a smart contract. You'll probably need to, you'll need to understand under the hood how these things are working. If you're talking from a security level, it's going to be quite difficult unless you know everything that's happening under the hood. So for your average user, you're probably not going to understand all the security under the hood just because there's a lot that goes into all of this. That's why you have auditing firms and things of that nature. But just going into a little bit of how do you educate like let's say non-Move developers to understand like Move smart contracts and things of that nature. I would say it goes a lot from how we write our smart contracts, right? So if you're coming from a non-Move environment like TypeScript or anything alike, one thing that we can really do from an educational standpoint or just creating open source material is we can write like human readable code in which users don't actually contextually have to understand what's happening under the hood. So one thing I would kind of talk about is if you're writing like open source things, I would almost move more into like just making sure that somebody can contextually read. You can just read in a human readable format what happens in this function without knowing the syntax of what Move does under the hood, right? So what does that kind of look like? If you're running any sort of validation on a function, I would probably just write that out like assert this timestamp has passed, right? And then just do, if you have 5 different validation functions, make sure all of those are human readable format. So then when somebody comes in from a technology that they don't really know what Move works under the hood, they can just read this and kind of dive into what each one does if they so choose to. So I would say those are about the 2 answers.
Thank you so much for answering my question, and thank you so much, Greg, the entire team of Aptos, for allowing me to be the speaker over here. Right, it's been like a great day for me to speak over here with such great builders. And yes, I'm so bullish on Aptos, what you've been building every single day. And yes, if you have some time, I would love to see you in my spaces as well. This is VJ Aptos host, right? So I would love to see you in my spaces as well. I host regularly as well. So yes, it's been good to talk to you. And thank you so much, Jacob, for answering my question. I'm super bullish on Aptos.
Thanks, VJ. Yeah, I sometimes drop in on your Twitter spaces there, but it's from time to time. Cool. And I will now pull up Alex from Everstate. Hey, Alex, welcome.
Hey, buongiorno. Hi, Jacob. And it's actually first time hearing about Overmind XYZ, as I understand you joined Aptos blockchain so far. So I have a question about your audience. So as I understand, you cannot try to gamify the process of coding. So what's the audience that you'd like to onboard on Aptos? Are those like experienced developers or people who are just starting on Move?
Yeah, what's up, Alex? Nice to meet you. Great question. I think that I think often what people kind of miss out with Web3 is there's a bunch of it's a lot to understand. There's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of buzzwords. I remember somebody came on probably the last Move Monday and talked about having 50 different wallets and things of that nature. So I think there's a lot to get into Web3. So one of the best things that we can do is kind of isolate each one of these things, right? So if you're a developer and you know React or you know TypeScript or you know all these other things, one thing we're a big believer in is we need all the developers, right? We're trying to bring in every developer to Aptos. So one thing we're kind of picking people off and basically showing them is, you can build smart contracts and that's really effective. And here's how you do that specifically with our quests. But one thing we're kind of bringing in the future is, if you know TypeScript, if you know all these other things, if you can create some sort of front end or web app, right, you can be useful. And we really need a lot of these folks to push the ecosystem forward. So we're kind of taking every developer from every walk of life and kind of showing them, where you're at right now, how you can be useful, and what you can do.
So my brain was in a million different places, as it always is, especially on these wonderful, amazing Move Mondays. But Jacob, kind of circling back, I think it was you or your colleague had mentioned soulbound tokens and the importance to Overmind. Can we dig a little deeper into that topic?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I would say I think a few months ago, or maybe like a month ago, we pushed up an AIP. which I would let anybody know. If you're building on Aptos or you want something built on Aptos, just look into the AIPs and push something, because the team will take it and push it to the ecosystem. So kind of what we have for our soulbound NFTs and how that works under the hood is we package them up a bit differently. We call them neurons, and what these neurons allow you to do is when a user solves something on Overmind, and they successfully solve something, they will earn one of these neurons. And this neuron is just an on-chain credential that validates your skills, right? So what you can kind of see is if both parties trust Overmind, and this user completed, a smart contract or completed a puzzle or a quest within X given of days, then that certificate now will prove their skill set on-chain. And one thing we want to bring, when this soulbound NFT kind of gets pushed through the Aptos, one thing we also want to do is we want to attach it to a user's profile. And when we'll make it even more enriched than that, right? So instead of just having something on chain, you can have something on chain and it will link into the exact submission that you have, right? So you can kind of think of it like if you had an interview. So if I wanted to interview from a FANG company or anything like that, they kind of have these interview processes. So one thing that you can kind of do with these neurons is I can click off of something from an on-chain credential and show, what quest this user was solving, how long it took them to solve it, their exact submission of code that they submitted to solve that question, to solve that submission, and how well they did, right? So now I can build an on-chain resume of my skill sets, as long as both parties, trust and validate that Overmind as a safe platform.
So going on that, maybe you could dig into a little bit more on what's the criticality of soulbound in this application.
Yeah, so if you had this, if you didn't have the ability to have a soulbound NFT, the normal NFTs or anything alike is basically just transferable, right? So you can kind of think of it like if you went to college, you got your diploma, and it had your name on it, and you earned that, and it shows that you earned that over 4 years or however long it took you. If you could just sell it, wipe your name off of the diploma and put somebody else's name on it, then diplomas become inherently less in value. So if somebody could just wipe off their name and transfer it to somebody else, then their certificates become less in value, right? So soulbound NFTs specifically are extremely important to us, because we need to make sure that person, they have to sign their the wallet when they connect it. So we make sure that user actually owns that wallet, whoever connects it. And then 2, we need to make sure that we send them some sort of credential in which they can't transfer or migrate off their account, because that diploma and that name that it's associated to is extremely important to us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in terms of your actual proposal, can you walk me? I mean, I know a little bit more of the details, but I'd love it if you could just kind of share what your process has been so far. And honestly, I'd like to also get some feedback, because I think there's definitely ways in which we can improve. But it's better for you to yell at us than for me to just Anyway, tell me more.
Yeah, so when we first kind of launched our proposal, it was basically, soulbound NFTs they're quite simple if you already have an NFT standard, because you just need to make sure that however you implement it, you're just making sure users can't transfer something. So in that regard, from a technical standpoint, it's not too difficult if you already have an NFT standard. I would say more in the lines of, I think we were probably the first AIP, community-driven AIP. So one thing I would probably want to say that you guys, you're obviously, you're extremely new, because we were the first ones, right? So, it's been great, because I think you guys are going to push it relatively soon, which means that's a great turnaround time. One thing I would say for us specifically, if we didn't have, connections into Aptos and we were just outside on the community, it's tough to have AIPs on GitHub and have this transparent nature on GitHub, because you guys have communications internally and things of that nature. But I would say one thing for the community is if you helped help open source, or have maybe your communication internally done in some sort of GitHub fashion where users can kind of see that publicly, that would do a lot of justice. Because kind of when we pushed the AIP forward, it was almost like we had to just leave the faith in the Aptos community, or leave the faith in your guys' team, rather than, hey, what can we do here? And yeah, so sort of like that is the only kind of feedback I have. I think you guys have did great turnaround times, and I think the AIP system is just getting started. But if you guys could just make that a little bit more transparent, I think that would go a long way in the community.
Yeah, that's really great feedback, and you know, it's kind of interesting. I'll share a little bit of the process from our perspective, and you know, always happy to iterate. So the ideal scenario is much like you folks did. Either somebody kind of floats out an idea as a GitHub issue, or goes directly and submits an AIP. You know, we're on Discord, we're on Telegram, we're on Slack for folks that are on those various mediums. Pretty receptive, as you probably found out, and that pretty. I think that's a pretty consistent theme, regardless of whatever connections you might have to us. I do recognize that there is somewhat of a vacuum in terms of the communication, and just to give some transparency into that aspect, you know, one of the things is when we communicate as Aptos Labs, we want to make sure that we have a single voice, a single kind of thought in that process. And as you can imagine, we've got a lot of really strong and capable individuals that oftentimes can be in very different directions. And, you know, unleashing that onto the ecosystem at this point in time might actually be scary. I mean, it's scary for me being on the inside and witnessing it. So I can only imagine outside, but I think you're absolutely right. Like, we need to find the right, balance between, you know, sharing, but not necessarily oversharing. You know, sharing completely early thoughts can sometimes be jarring, but at the same time, it can also be eye-opening in terms of identifying, oh, wow, we didn't think about those nuances or that perspective. And it's not great if that just kind of slips underneath and nobody actually outside of Aptos Labs is aware of some of those insights. So definitely noted, and definitely an opportunity for us to kind of brainstorm and figure out how we kind of balance between not adding chaos, but still enabling healthy discourse.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you know, well said, because, you know, developers do have very unique personalities. And, you know, I think it's definitely, if you open that can of worms of, you can kind of see open source technology and kind of how those GitHub conversations go down. So I do understand what you guys, you know, are going through there. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, you guys are doing a great job. You're iterating fast on multiple different avenues. So I think the only thing that really matters is, you know, you guys have a really open mind, right? So the amount of time that passes, you guys will keep iterating and keep staying transparent. And, you know, the only thing that really mattered is getting those AIP proposals out there. And then just, you know, the amount of time it takes to iterate and just hear, you know, community feedback like the ones I'm giving now and, you know, from other folks is the only thing that really matters.
Perfect. So the other thing I want to, you know, with our, anyway, I want to show a little bit is our token V2 standard. And one of the things that we kind of stumbled across with your effort was just how should I say, non-extensible our existing token standard was. In particular, I have to double check exactly where we are in terms of the functionality that you're exploring, but we recognize that there was at least two different ways to do this, and neither of them resulted in something that would be great. On one hand, we could potentially, I think, add to the soulbound the actual transfer function and check to see if the token itself is soulbound. That adds in a non-negligible amount of data processing for every single token transfer, regardless of whether or not it is soulbound. And considering soulbound would probably represent a fraction, like less than probably 1% of all tokens, it's like, wow, that kind of sucks. And I think on the other hand, it would be to have a separate soulbound store, which probably would work pretty fine, except now we've basically told every single indexer to go and update themselves to support the soulbound standard, which probably isn't too bad, but you know, we always worry about adding additional friction to, you know, broad swaths of the ecosystem. And so when we kind of saw that, it's like, wait, can we actually just change the programming model so that nobody pays extra? It's already kind of built in on how you define transferring and who can transfer and when you can transfer and all these other different kind of business logic on what transferring even means. And so we kind of pushed towards the token V2 effort, which began first with objects. And so if you go to our AIPs, I think it's AIP 10, you can actually see we've made great progress in defining a infrastructure or a framework for thinking about extensible move data that is kind of the predecessor of tokens. And so, you know, I'd still like to figure out how we can kind of unblock this initial effort, which I think we're quickly moving towards. But I'd also love to get your feedback on making sure you feel good about the way that that route is taking, so that when we do introduce, the update, that Soulbound and other applications that you're imagining to be built on top of Aptos kind of make even more sense than they currently do.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, I didn't know that, our proposal that we pushed kind of opened that can of worms, to dive deep into that, inspiration and changing the entire, framework of version 2 tokens. But yeah, I think one thing that we wanted to make sure is that you kind of see that if you get a standard pushed out, you do need to make sure that it's as frictionless as possible to those ecosystem platforms that are launching it, right? So if you have wallets, a bunch of wallets that are used to indexing NFTs in a certain way, or you have a bunch of dApps that are indexing NFTs in a certain way, one thing that we just really wanted to make sure when pushing out the standard is that indexing or those things, hopefully as much as we could, just don't have to be changed, right? Because what you kind of figure out is with more friction, you have less users that adopt this technology, which then causes some sort of states in which users don't understand the difference between an NFT and a non-NFT, because some of the UI still look like they can send NFTs, sold on NFTs, because they haven't updated it. So one of the things that we just really cared about is when pushing this implementation is just as least amount of friction as possible to the entire ecosystem. And then two is we wanted to make sure that this was like a global standard, right? Because it's not technically complex for us. As you said, the majority of the NFTs are not going to be sold on NFTs. The ratio is going to be really different, or really vast there, right? So we could have easily just launched our own smart contract that has sold on NFTs, but then we need to make sure that this thing is globally adopted via the entire ecosystem. So one thing we need to make sure is that a standard needs to get put in place. So then all of the dApps are now going to adhere by this standard. So then when a user earns a Soulbound NFT and earns a neuron on Overmind by completing something, they can see that in their wallet, and it's displayed differently than a normal NFT.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's very important that the data is very accurate and represents the intention, because otherwise it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But with that, sorry, we've got some drilling going on in the background, so if we mute in and out, please recognize our sincere apologies for that. But with that, I kind of want to pivot back to Greg on bringing potentially more people up that might want to ask any questions.
It looks like Alex has a question.
No, just the background noise is you guys building. We're building.
Yeah, always building, always building. All right, I'm pulling up Shamrock now. Next.
Also, I'd like to, I think Austin just got back from ETH Denver in the Aptos house. So after Shamrock, I'd love to throw Austin up there for a little bit of grilling.
I did actually invite him to speak. He hasn't accepted yet.
That's not amazing.
Thanks, Shamrock. Welcome.
Hey, hello. What's up, Aptos team? Hello, Overmind. And yeah, hello, Jacob. I want to first say one thing. I have been listening to Jacob and hear his performances for a few days, especially during the MoveCon and today. And I want to admit that I hear so much passion in his voice, and when he actually, explains everything about the code. For me, as a non-technical guy at all, coding is like, some sort of magic, and very, kind of very complicated. Jacob, I think, is like, this is something so easy and so simple because actually he explains everything. So my question to Jacob will be, maybe you have like some top 3 advices for people who wish to begin coding with the Move, how to become as passionate as you are. Or maybe it will be, some thread or article for your Overmind project. But yeah, I'm really, really curious. What can make you so passionate as you are? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm so flattered, Shamrock. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you turned into my talk at MoveCon. Yeah, so one thing I would say is that, passion just lies, regardless of what you're building, passion just lies with the person, right? So as a developer or, a gift lord like yourself, Shamrock, I would say that you just got to find something that you are really passionate and motivated to do regardless. If you're having trouble, falling asleep because you just think about this idea, then that's something you should just lean into, right? So one thing that I would say, like the top three ideas that I would have and onboarding like new people or getting them passionate about something is you have to find the idea first and the product first. So if you're a developer, I would find that side project. I'd find that idea that you've always thought about and gives you motivation. And then once you find that idea, then you backtrace to the technology, right? Because at the end of the day, like it's extremely hard to brute force through documentation and brute force through learning technology when you don't have that motivation. But if I'm brute forcing through documentation and technology because I'm moving towards some sort of outcome that I'm passionate about, then I can get through that, right? So I would say that's my main takeaway is you just have to backtrace through whatever brings you passion. If that project of launching NFTs or launching a marketplace that brings NFTs or launching some sort of dancing NFT or dancing game to Aptos, then you just backtrace from that, right? Don't learn everything at once. It's kind of it's extremely hard. And now like developers age right now because everybody's like teaching you got to be full stack, you got to know the front end, you got to know the back end, you got to know smart contracts, you got to know how it operates on mobile, you got to realize you got to be responsive in your development and your design, right? There's just so many things going on at once, and I think that that's overwhelming at first. So if you can just kind of pick off, hey, I want to build this project and I want to build this product or this thing because I'm excited about this. Like Greg wants to build some sort of tic-tac-toe or checkers or something like that, right? That brings him motivation. So then he'll backtrace and be like, okay, what technology? How do I build this? How do I bring it to life? And it's so much easier backtracing like that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And actually, it's funny that like all the advices you gave right now, kind of similar to what I have when I actually create, my animations or pixel art. So it's all about like being creative and inspired. Yeah, thanks a lot for covering this.
Thank you. And now I think Austin's up here now. You want to have anything you want to say about Denver? How's it going there?
Yeah. What's up, everyone? Hello. It was good. It was long. It was awesome to kind of see everyone that came out to the Aptos house. I mean, for those that aren't aware, we kind of did a thing from 11 to 6 on Saturday. We were expecting maybe 75, 80 people, and I think in total we had 400 people come throughout the whole day. So it was absolutely wild to see the turnout for that. It was a good chance for everyone who is involved with Aptos, involved with the ecosystem, to kind of get to know each other and learn what everyone was working on. So, I think in general, obviously ETH Denver is an Ethereum based conference, but the reception and the response that I got from talking to people around Aptos in general is always really beautiful to see. People are excited about what we're building. People are interested in learning more. I think people are really fascinated by Move. I got the Move EVM question quite a bit, but in general, it was a really incredible experience. It's just continued to solidify how strong the Aptos ecosystem has grown in just a very short period of time. With that said, we still have a lot of room to grow, like a lot of room to grow. Like we want to see more builders, we want to see more users, we want to see TPS higher. In general, there's a lot we want to see, but the amount of ground that we've covered in 4 or 5 months is just absolutely tremendous. And I think it's a testament to everyone building on top of the network. It's a testament to the engineers that have been building and maintaining the network, and I think it's just a testament to the people that are jumping in and exploring what we got going on. So I think if anyone does have any questions, I'm happy to like answer them as well. If folks had specific things around ETH Denver, anything that I can help out with. I think the biggest one I got was a when grant. So obviously grants are nice. Wave 4 should be opening up this month. So if you have asked me about that before, this is just an all hands to
to everyone to let them know that the wave 4 is coming up. And if anyone does have stuff, feel free just to jump in. I'm way less formal than these gentlemen that I work with.
Amazing. Do you have anything else to do?
I mean, I just want to give a shout out. When you mentioned when, the first thing that comes to my mind is the when button. And, you know, props to both Zero and Joe for pushing out probably the most impactful project on Aptos to date. I don't know if you winned yet, but I winned, and I recommend everybody else go win so that we can win together.
But when?
We got Win version 2 coming out, David, tonight.
I'm waiting for it. I mean, I already asked when, and we need it. We need it. We need more of these great functionalities on top of Aptos. And I actually look forward to when Overmind has a quest to make your own win button.
I was just playing around with that today. It's the Brothers mission to increase TPS one click at a time. I'm here for it.
Yo, VJ.
No, it's been like, the moment we've been talking about when button, right? Me, Zero, some other folks, hopping into other chain spaces, turning out, making them on board to Aptos. And we always talk in other spaces that if Aptos wins, we all win. So we've been talking about all the time in all the spaces, and it's been fun, right? We say if Topaz wins, we all win. If Zero win, Blue Bear wins, we all win, and if Aptos wins, we all win. We all win more. So it's been crazy ride with Zero. He's been like doing God's job, and it's been amazing to hop into the space with Zero always.
Yeah, Zero and I had like an hour-long phone call like a couple of days ago, and it was really, really nice. And I think the we all win thing is just a testament to the community. I mean, everyone is just really kind. There's no drama, and the network maintains 100% uptime as well, which makes it easier to use. So it helps.
Awesome, Alex.
So if Austin is director of ecosystem, is he technically my boss as well?
I am no one's boss. I'm just kind of here. I don't even know what I do. I think David's in charge of everyone, honestly. He just does.
I take no responsibility for anybody or anything or anyone. It's blasphemy. I just want to have fun and hack on stuff. Let's go hack together.
I actually report to David. I just ignore him. That's what I know.
I think I report to David.
I report to David too. It's recursive. We're all screwed. It's going to explode on itself. Actually, I technically think I reported to Ariana.
We all report.
Make sure you follow her on Twitter. Very active presence on Twitter. Really, the life force of Aptos.
She's launching an NFT project. Make sure to reach out to her and figure out when she's launching that too. She said the first 100 people that DM her get whitelist.
You have to follow her too.
You do.
And you got to retweet her latest tweets. And you have to convince 3 friends to follow her as well. And if all the data adds up, you get whitelisted.
And David's giving away Bear.
Not financial advice. Ariana's in the room with us, and she's laughing so hard she's almost crying. So absolutely take everything everyone said very seriously.
I am everybody's boss after all, and Ariana's everybody else's boss. So it must be true.
Austin, are you here? I did last time. Last time of Spaces, I asked more questions, then I did a quote. So can I quote you on your answer as well?
Yeah. Well, what was it?
No, can I quote you on the answer you gave me?
Oh, you can quote me. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I think the real answer, and you're welcome to quote either, is just kind of like my core role and responsibility is to make sure that everyone that's building on top of us or involved in the ecosystem in any way, shape, or form is successful. So ultimately, my job is just to make sure everyone else absolutely crushes it. And, the more you guys do, the easier my life becomes. But you can also just say, go follow Ariana is my quote, and then tag her account.
Please do. Please do.
Please do. I think last time we did that, I gave away like a couple of Mavericks. So I think David and Max said they were giving away their profile pictures.
Yeah, definitely. Every day of the week. They're a dime a dozen.
But it's always good to talk with you, Alex, and appreciate you always being so active with everything.
I wanted to start closing up for the session because I have a meeting right after this. But it's actually kind of funny because David has just put on an Everstake sweater. So that's very good for you there, Alex.
It's really an amazing fashion statement, and I think everybody in the labs is going to be super jelly of these, but it really shows who the leader is by demonstrating the ability to take a handful of swag and you know, wear it around and just demonstrate our love for our ecosystem builders. So bless you, Alex, and bless you for this amazing swag.
T-shirt. Real quick, before we jump, I'm just looking through the audience. There's a couple of people I wanted to shout that I think everyone should go follow. So if you can hear me, you should go check out the Indexer account. Those guys are awesome. Able Finance, those guys are awesome. Aptos Art Museum, y'all are amazing. Everyone should go follow them. Who else we got? We got Wayne. Go follow Wayne.
Yeah, and I just
Yar
want to
Hunter.
close it really quick with some. Yeah, Yar Hunter, of course. I want to close it with some quick announcements of things that have happened in the last week. The Aptos SDK on Unity, it's here. Check it out.
Thanks everyone, and good night everyone.
Is live. Thank you.
To be honest, I'm here so as to listen our visitors and Overmind X, YZ, XYZ.
So quiet.
And it's great to see every builder in here, and it's pretty nice to see being in this space because this space gives the opportunity of listen to other builders in this chain, and I want to listen. If I have question, I can ask, no problem. I love you.
DM me directly. My phone stopped working, so I'm talking on Max's right now. I just wanted to leave with some real quick notes since mine went completely quiet. We launched the Aptos SDK on Unity this week. Please check it out for building games on Unity. Morales is live with our support as well. And check out Mayan's end-to-end tutorial. She gave a workshop at the Interop Summit. And we have to run right now. So thank you, everyone, and have a good Monday. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, have a good one.